Musically Yours. If you've seen little bookmarks on the tables, that's what that's about. The co-authors of Musically Yours is Duet's memoir of life, love, and music. The book was softly launched in September 2020. Why? Thanks, COVID. You put a book together and then it's like, the world shut you up. They put any plans for a book launch on the back burner, and when I met with Monique, so we worked together several months ago, I thought they could launch it at the House Band Reading Series Atomic Rooster Edition, which is what they're doing. Monique and Rick Tremblay were regular performers in the Ottawa music scene from 1983 until 2005. And some of you may have heard them at various venues that featured live entertainment, or maybe you have a CD of theirs. The thing I liked about reading about it, it's about a story about music, Ottawa music. Bit of a trip down memory lane for me, as I remember some of the places and musicians that they wrote about. Like one place, you know where, okay, this is going to make me sound old, but remember the old Bank Cafe? Right? You know, on the corner of Bank in Somerset, where you walk into the grocery store? That used to be the patio for the Old Bank Cafe. And where you go in and buy lottery tickets, that was the Old Bank Cafe. They kept the facade, but Rick and Monique used to play there. Let's welcome them for their first official book launch. Here's Monique Tremblay. She tells their story of Musically Yours. It'll be about 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Simon. I'm sitting here today with a table of friends, but most importantly, the other half of my life, Rick Tremblay. And I decided to write Musically Yours in 2017 because 18 years ago, Rick had a brainstem stroke. And music changed for us. And I thought, my great nephews would look at me, fuddy-duddy old woman who let her hair go white, pushing a wheelchair, and they're looking at Rick going, oh, and I said, well, I don't want them thinking that's who we are. Now, I know they're not going to give a crap until they're 20 or maybe 30. Let's forget, in their 40s, they might be interested in our story. By then, we will be in the heavenly band, playing with Roy Orbison, Ella Fitzgerald, you name it. But at least they will say, oh, we had a pretty cool great uncle Rick and a great aunt Monique. She was a little crazy, but my uncle Rick, he was pretty cool because he played guitars and stuff. Monique talks too much, or she gets too excited. But I have to say, for all of you, writing your story, you have a story to tell. Don't wait for somebody to write your obituary to say, look at all the great stuff this person did. Why not write it now? And this is what Musically Yours is about. It's our story, but I want you to write your story. If I inspire you tonight, and you're going to go home and write your story, and it doesn't matter, you can be silly, crazy, someone might even think you're insane, which is okay because you're in great company. How did we come up with the title Musically Yours? And I say Rick is a co-author. Technically, he was the verbal editor. Every chapter I wrote, I read to Rick, and Rick would give me the old evil eye and the eyebrow up the forehead, like he used to do when we would sing, and he would look at me going, where are you going with this song? This is not how we practiced it. Because I'm a moody singer, maybe a bit of a diva, because sometimes I'm not in the mood to sing a certain song, and other times it's like, no, I don't want to do Bob Dylan again. I'd rather do Patsy Cline. Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. As opposed to early one morning on the sun was shining, I was lying in bed. I used to say to Rick, I think we should charge Bob Dylan rent. Because every morning after brushing his teeth, Bob was playing in the background. But somehow, for some crazy reason, we are still together. We started dating in 1980. I was a country and western radio announcer in Sudbury, Ontario. I was the first female radio announcer that was not doing a cooking show or Bible study. And I got the job because the announcer on that day, and I was the music director, we weren't full-on country. I used to call it music for the dead and deceased. One vocal and 9 instrumentals, from Andre Costamanis to James Last, you name it, I know this stuff. scary. But they went all country. And Rick and I started dating then because I became an MC in my small town of Chelmsford, Ontario, 20 some odd kilometers northwest of Sudbury. So if any of you are people from the Sudbury area, you know what I'm talking about. But that's how we got together. And then after 9 years test driving, we were married in 1989, just 2 weeks before I turned 30 and before things started sagging. But I am not a hockey wife. I am a Dylan wife. Everything is always Dylan. Now I hear him everywhere. I could be in the shopping center and I hear music and it's Bob Dylan. I could be watching a rom-com and there's Bob Dylan. So I have to blame Rick for my consciousness of listening to Bob Dylan all the time. But back to the music. It's true. We lived in Sudbury. The mines let go of more than half of their employees, both the Inco and Falconbridge, and it's a one industry town, not like Ottawa, where that doesn't happen. But in our town, when the mines went, that meant retail stores were letting people go, and then yours truly, at a whopping $2.15 an hour as a radio announcer, because women radio announcers were being paid less. And we had to watch our volume, because where's the sound guy? He knows about this. The dB level. Women had to watch their dB level if you were in the red too much, because the Canadian radio and television industry decided that having women on the air, and that even means 2 female songs back to back, was harmful for your hearing. That law was changed when Lilith Fair came to town, and they struck it off that. So my radio voice is this. Good morning, everybody. This is Monique Tremblay on CIGM FM. I am so thrilled that you're joining me today. I've got some great music for you. Georgie Jones, a little Tammy Wynette. And hey, anything you want from me, just give me a call. That's the kind of stuff we did. And for those of you who were born after 2000, CDs didn't exist, cassettes didn't exist. It was all vinyl or an 8-track. We still have an 8-track player at home, and it works. Trust me, it still works. Because a lot of Rick's recordings were done on 8-track on an old Lloyd's record. So our story in here, I broke it up into sections. Love is the music, Take My Heart, Life is a Song, and Hope is the lyrics. And with that, I wrote different stories of how we met. What happens when you go into a bar? And I mentioned in here, we would play at different bars in the Ottawa area. And as soon as the sound guy saw, oh, it's a short little female, you know, we gotta pump up the volume. And Rick would constantly go to, hey, when my wife gets up to sing, and I wasn't from my girlfriend, you need to sit on the volume. And the guy's, oh no, he goes and sets the volume, walks away, and has a beer with his buddies. And as soon as I sang a song by Katie Lang or whatever, and I'm belting it, I would have to back up from the microphone until I could see the sound guy running like a fast little rabbit to put his hand on the dial. But this is when we learn the difference between a sound guy and a sound engineer. Some of the places, the sound engineers were into what they were doing. They were into the craft of making the musicians sound good. And that is so important, because you want your lyrics to come through. You want your acoustic of your guitar to come through. You don't want a beer-soaked microphone, of which I have sung through a lot in my lifetime. That's why I have my own, because singing into a microphone soaked in beer is not the greatest thing. But that's the kind of relationship we had. Rick and I never argued about money, but we did argue about one thing. The set list. He was adamant that our set list could not have the same song in the same key. Even if one was slow tempo and one was fast tempo, no, it has to be this way. And I'm like rolling my eyes, going, seriously? Okay, fine. But then when we go live, I would change my mood, because that's the way I am. That's how I'm built. But think about this. In today's music scene, you've got YouTube. You've got Google. You've got Facebook, all of this stuff to promote your music. And look at Justin Bieber. That's how he launched his career, recording in his basement. What did we have? Telephone, mail, in visits with the manager. Hopefully they're there and you can meet with them. And then pitch your story. And this is what Rick did. I meant to read a whole bunch of different things, but I want to read what Rick said in the packages. And he sent a 4-page bio, typed on an Underwood typewriter. In 1983, they moved to Ottawa. Monique and Rick wasted no time reestablishing themselves in the city and surrounding areas. And Monique succeeded in becoming the only top 10 finalist in the CKDY talent search that year, who was to receive a spontaneous standing ovation for her powerful presence and delivery. Monique and Rick continued to perform folk pop songs in the Ottawa clubs, coffee houses, and to this turn led to concert, club, and cable TV appearances, some of which include Magic in the Music festivals and regular appearances at the Bank Street Cafe. And that's where I want to sign off. I do want to say to the hotel, the restaurant establishment here, Rick kept every clipping from the Ottawa Citizen. Do you remember the Ottawa Citizen in paper form? Okay. Rick used a cutting knife and he cut out every clipping and put it in a Sucrette's tin box. I have here the Bank Street Cafe dinner and movie package, choice of 3-course meal plus gift certificate to any Odeon Cineplex theater. Reserved now for Valentine's Day for $16.95. That was 1991. I don't think you can go to a movie for that amount. I hope in some ways I inspired you to read our story. I am working on the second memoir called Caregiver Warrior, because the last 18 years has been a journey, and don't get me started on COVID because I've learned even more from that. But the main thing is I'm musically his and he's musically mine, and you can see us at any festival. So if you see this crazy woman pushing a guy across an intersection at Blues Fest, you're going to say, wow, that's Monique and Rick, and they're musically yours. Thank you very much.